If you follow video games related news, you maybe have heard that there is a new open world role-playing game in development that plays in Middle-earth, the famous continent where also Lord of the Rings takes place. It will be developed by the famous Czech developer Warhorse Studios, which is in my opinion exciting news. They previously made the Kingdom Come Deliverance games. When it comes to adoptions and friends, Lord of the Rings fans had a lot to endure in the past years. The Gollum game was not so great, though I found it to be relatively respectful when it comes to the lore, but the gameplay was a disaster. And the Amazon show was also a mixed bag. To be fair, at least Return to Moria was decent and Tales of the Shire was also a nice little cozy game, but there was nothing big that made a lot of people happy. Now with Warhorse Studios making a new game, there is quite a bit of potential. I would even say that's actually fantastic news. My name is Chris, aka ThePhilosophersgames, and today we talk about Warhorse Studios making a new Lord of the Rings game. Let us start with the right situation for The Lord of the Rings, which is interesting in this case. Warhorse Studios was bought by the Austrian publisher Koch Media, now called Plaion, in 2019. Which was itself bought by the Swedish media holding company Embracer Group in 2018. Embracer also bought a company called Middle-earth Enterprises in 2022. This company was formerly known as Tolkien Enterprises, and they own the film and merchandise rights for The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, which Tolkien sold in the 60s, as far as I know. In the past, Middle-earth Enterprises sold Lord of the Rings licenses to publishers to make video games as part of their merchandise rights. The Tolkien estate, which includes the Tolkien family, they hold all the other rights, sued them for doing this due to video games being a form of media itself and not just merchandise. However, they managed to come to an agreement out of court in July 2017. It seems Middle-earth Enterprises is still allowed to sell licenses for video games after that. Embracer Group is its own complicated topic, and they got into quite a bit of trouble after a deal with Saudi Arabia did not come to fruition. They mostly own video game studios and publishers like the brand THQ Nordic. However, there is of course a lot of interest in the company after paying $395 million for Middle-earth Enterprises to make something with the Lord of the Rings license, especially when you primarily own video game companies. So after quite a bit of restructuring, and Warhorse Studios being one of their most successful studios, it makes sense that they start working on a Lord of the Rings related game. Though it would seem plausible that Embracer tasked Warhorse Studios to make the game, the developers stated in the last community stream that it was their own wish to work on this project and that it was a passion project for them, which I can believe because Lord of the Rings is such a beloved franchise. Warhorse also expanded their team size to form a second team that will work on the Lord of the Rings game in parallel. The other team works on a new Kingdom Come game, which is planned to release somewhere between April 2027 and April 2028. I would assume it comes 2028. And this makes the release of the Lord of the Rings RPG more likely in 2029 or beyond. I guess it sounds promising that they have a new team that was created just for making this game, and some Warhorse Studios veterans will also work on that new team. They even stated that there will be a collaboration between both as well. However, to conclude this section about the rights situation, though Middle-earth Enterprises has the Lord of the Rings rights and is part of the same parent company as Warhorse Studios, they don't own the rights to the art style and music of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films. That belongs to Warner Bros., who bought New Line Cinema in 2008. Warhorse Studios, through Middle-earth Enterprises, only have the rights to make a video game based on what is written in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings books. As a result, it can be assumed that they have to create their own interpretation of the source material, including art design, music, actors, etc., which for me personally is very interesting but might disappoint the expectations of some people. Still, I see Warhorse Studios as a studio that to this point followed a more conservative or classical approach in their games so far. I would not expect that they will start artistically experimenting with a Lord of the Rings game they make. If you look at Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2, you see a very grounded and realistic style and approach to world design, which in my opinion is very fitting and what many fans want. So I would be surprised if it would look too different from what we already know. As mentioned, their two published games so far are Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2. They are well-received open-world RPGs that are set in Bohemia, today part of Czechia, during the 15th century. They try to be historically very accurate in this setting. Though there are some inaccuracies and debate, they overall did a great job compared to many other games in a medieval setting. And this brings us to an interesting point. I think in a setting like this, when you try to be historically accurate, you have to make your world building and storytelling work inside the boundaries of history, which I assume can be restricting compared to a medieval fantasy setting. Warhorse Studios already demonstrated that they are able to tell stories and build a world within these chosen restrictions. I think due to the vast amount of detail and lore inside the Lord of the Rings universe, we find a very similar situation. To make a somewhat lore-accurate game, you need to also make your storytelling and world building work inside these boundaries set by Tolkien. And here I see a perfect fit. They at least have done something distantly similar already. Of course, lore accuracy alone does not make a fun game. Shadow of Mordor was a game that took many freedoms when it comes to the lore and metaphysics of Tolkien's universe, but it was for sure a very fun game, which also had some correct lore in it as well. Finding the right balance here is a difficult art, but I can see that the developers have experience with this, though I definitely expect that they will take some freedoms as well. At the end of the day, they make a video game that has to be fun and they don't have all the rights, but I can hardly imagine a better fitting studio. Tolkien's universe is more rooted in mythology, but some aspects also have ties to history, like the people of Rohan having many parallels to the Goths, Scandinavians, and the medieval Anglo-Saxons. And the developers have a good knowledge about medieval times, though 15th century is late Middle Ages and Anglo-Saxons are more early Middle Ages. I think there are parallels that might help though. Further, the Kingdom Come games were known for their impressive visual fidelity, so we can expect the best looking Lord of the Rings game to date if they stick to their approach to graphics. All that sounds very positive, and I think it is, but I still have one small fear. Maybe the game design of Warhorse Studios is not mainstream enough. I can 100% see them pulling it off and getting good reviews, but I also know there are many Lord of the Rings fans who are not deeply into gaming, who might be interested and then can easily be frustrated with, for example, combat if they make something similar to Kingdom Come Deliverance. In addition, you have to eat and drink, etc. Would they reduce these elements, I think the overall game design could suffer and become too watered down. Kingdom Come Deliverance is not a game for everyone, while The Lord of the Rings is a really big franchise, so expectations could clash here if the developers stick to their game design philosophy. However, this could be potentially solved by giving the players some difficulty options. Personally, as someone who plays a lot of games that are considered difficult, I would love when they stick to their approach and make a challenging open world game again. And I think it would also sell well. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 sold 5 million copies. But it's hard to tell how it would resonate with new audiences. Maybe they find solutions like FromSoft with Elden Ring, which is quite a difficult game as well, but they added many mechanics to help new players, and it sold 30 million copies, which is quite surprising for a Souls game like this. Maybe Warhorse Studios can find solutions for that as well, without watering down the game too much. I hope so. Further open world games with high visual fidelity are always expensive to make, so this is not a small project. While Return to Moria, the Gollum game, or Tales of the Shire were small titles, Warhorse Studios' Lord of the Rings game will be a big one again, comparable with the Middle-earth Shadow of games. Shadow of Mordor came out 2014 and Shadow of War 2017. By the time the new game comes out, the last big Lord of the Rings game will have come out over a decade ago. It really is time for a new one, and I think the timing is also deliberate, because Peter Jackson and friends are working on new films as well. In what era and place the new game will play is hard to say, but I think the Third Age is very likely, because the material about the Second Age is very incomplete in the Lord of the Rings book, and the TV show has probably generated too much negativity so far. I hope that changes as well, to be honest, but I'm not too confident. Also, most iconic and beloved characters are from the Third Age, and I guess you want those in your game as well. I can really see them doing something with Rohan or Rohan's ancestors, the Eotheod, and the earlier lords and kings of the Norsemen. The Kinstrife might be interesting in this context, to be honest. The time of the Angmar War is also high on the wish list of fans and also offers a lot of potential. I can also see the time around the Watchful Peace or its end, or some of the wars of Gondor against the Haradrim, Corsairs, and Easterlings. I think Warhorse likes creating a side story that slowly connects to larger events. Maybe they also use a similar approach as almost all other games we had so far, and it takes place between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, or during Lord of the Rings itself. Though they called it a Middle-earth game and not a Lord of the Rings game, so I think that this careful phrasing might be a hint. I personally would love to see something from the appendices. I wish them luck and success with the project, and I see a lot of potential for them. We are in desperate need of an awesome AAA Lord of the Rings game, and I hope they can deliver. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, feel free to press the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and maybe check some of my other deep dive lore videos, like my 10+ hour Who is Elrond video. Also, what do you think about Warhorse Studios making a Lord of the Rings game? Would you agree that they are a good match for a game like this? How did you like the Kingdom Come Deliverance games? Also, huge shoutouts to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch, Patreon, and Ko-fi and so on. Thank you for your generosity and support. Again, thank you for watching, and goodbye.